Before the world turned its face from the soil, she watched. She waited. She remembered. She did not sit upon a throne of gold, but rested in every breath of the land. The wind carried her name. The rivers echoed her law. Ali, spirit of earth, keeper of balance, mother of all. She is Allah, the earth Otis, guardian of life, justice, and the sacred balance between the living and the dead. To the Igbo people, she was not myth. She was memory, spirit, home. She is the pulse beneath your feet, the echo in your bones, the voice that speaks through silence. And though time buried her name in foreign tongues, she never left. Now her daughters rise, her sons awaken. Because we remember, because we must, because she calls. Who is Ayla? She is not merely a goddess. She is the earth itself, the living land beneath the feet of the Igbo people. In Igbo cosmology, Ayla is not an abstraction or distant deity. She is the physical earth and the spiritual essence within it. Her name literally means earth in the Igbo language. She is omnipresent, alive in the red clay soil, in the whispering trees, in the harvest of yam, the most sacred crop. Fertility and fecundity are her blessings, but so too are drought and decay when balance is broken. Allah is dual in nature. She nurtures life, yet also contains the power to receive the dead. She is both the womb of creation and the inevitable grave that returns all to dust. As the highest deity in the traditional Igbo pantheon, Allah is not only revered but feared for her capacity to give and take. Her domain is vast and encompasses the visible world, Uwa, and the invisible, Alusi, binding spirit and matter. Her influence governs agriculture, morality, community life, and the ancestral realm. She does not reside in distant heavens like the sky god Chukwu, but dwells within the land itself, immediate and sacred. Every harvest, every birth, and every burial is an act within her presence. To walk upon the earth is not merely physical, it is to touch the divine. She is alive in every footprint, in every seed that splits the soil, and in every echo of drumbeat that honors the ancestors. She does not dwell in distant heavens. She lives in the roots of trees, the hum of insects, the deep silence of sacred groves known as Ohia. These untouched forests are her sanctuaries, set aside from hunting, farming, or desecration. To violate these groves was to desecrate Allah herself. She was present in the very structure of Igbo life, her sacred symbols etched on homes, her spirit invoked in oaths, her presence acknowledged in every major decision. It was common for villages to establish shrines or sacred spaces, Mambari, to honor her, artistic altars built from earth and clay to express gratitude and seek balance when disruptions or disasters arose. To the Igbo, Allah was never considered fiction. She was law, cosmic and communal. Her taboos, Enso Allah, were not mere religious rules, but natural and moral codes that governed life, justice, and ecology. The theft of land, disrespect toward elders, mistreatment of women, or environmental destruction were not just crimes against people. They were violations of Alabama. These were not punishable by kings or warriors, but by disruption to community harmony and divine retribution. Her presence in every aspect of life made her both intimate and absolute. She was the moral axis of the world, the soul of the soil, and the heartbeat of a people whose roots ran deep into her sacred ground. Allah is the law you do not write, because it is already etched in your bones and carried in the blood of your ancestors. In traditional Igbo society, morality was not a system imposed by institutions, but a sacred relationship with the earth. Allah is the embodiment of this moral order. She is both witness and judge, and her justice is immediate and eternal. Her laws, known as NSO Allah, are not arbitrary commands, but sacred boundaries that maintain Ofo na Ogu, truth and innocence. These laws defined right from wrong, not merely by human standards, but by what preserved harmony between humans, nature, and the ancestors. What is just is sacred. What is unjust desecrates her body. Violating Enso Ala was believed to cause not just personal misfortune, but communal imbalance, droughts, famine, illness, or spiritual unrest. Her moral structure was deeply ecocentric. Killing without cause, abusing the land, defiling rivers, or dishonoring the dead were acts that tore at the spiritual fabric of existence. When these laws were broken, they were not corrected by imprisonment or warfare. They required public cleansing, sacrifice, and reconciliation to restore the sacred order. Priests and priestesses of Allah, Ndienze or Ndidibia, guided communities in interpreting her will and mediating spiritual justice. In every Igbo village, it was her shrine that stood first. Not as decoration, but as an altar of truth. It was placed at the center of life, near farmlands, in the square, or beside ancestral compounds. These shrines were not idols, but physical reminders of divine law. People made offerings to Ala not out of fear, but to remain in rhythm with the earth's breath. Even legal proceedings, land agreements, and marriage ceremonies were consecrated in her name. Her presence was so essential that no community could claim spiritual legitimacy without first honoring her. To lie before her was to curse oneself. To spill blood unjustly upon her soil was to provoke her wrath. Enso Ala were passed down not through books, but through stories, rituals, and lived experience. Children learned them from elders, and each generation was taught that morality was not separate from spirituality. To ignore her law was to forget who you are and where you come from. Women, as givers of life, were seen as especially close to Allah and often served as her spiritual mediators. The earth's cycles were mirrored in their bodies, and their role in maintaining sacred order was revered. Allah did not punish with visible thunder or flame. She withdrew. And in that divine silence, crops would fail, rivers would recede, and communities would feel the spiritual hunger that only reverence could heal. Allah gives life, and she receives it. She is the force that births the child and the soil that cradles the ancestor. In the sacred cosmology of the Igbo, Allah is the origin and the destination, Malite na Ngucha. Every life enters the world through her breath and returns to her embrace when the body grows still. Her presence is felt in every seed that breaks the earth and in every grave dug beneath it. Life, in its fullness, is not a straight line, but a sacred circle, and Allah is the circle's keeper. She is not just earth, she is reincarnation, legacy, and memory. When a child draws first breath, it is her spirit that welcomes them. Birth rituals among the Igbo often begin and end with offerings to Allah, honoring her as the one who permits the spirit, Muo, to enter the physical world. Her blessing is invoked for the child's protection and moral grounding. The midwives who assist in delivery are not merely helpers, they are spiritual vessels acting under Allah's gaze. And when death visits, it is she who receives the body with solemn grace. The deceased are buried facing the family compound, their flesh returning to her soil so that their spirit may rest among the ancestors, Ndiichie, who also dwell within her. The ancestors live within her womb, not below, not above, but within. There is no distant heaven in traditional Igbo belief. The afterlife exists in continuity with the land. Allah is the divine vault where spirits rest, guide, and observe. Ancestral spirits, Ndiichie, are not forgotten ghosts. They are active participants in the lives of the living, invoked in prayer, consulted in crisis, and honored through ritual. Through Allah, the veil between worlds is thin. When you touch the earth, you are touching your past. When you pour libation, you speak across time. The living and the dead are bound together in her sacred terrain. She is the keeper of names, the guardian of souls, the spirit of eternal return. Through her, reincarnation, Ilo Uwa, becomes possible. A child born with marks or behaviors reminiscent of a past relative is believed to carry that soul back through Ala's cycle. She is not just death or rebirth. She is the passage between, the sacred silence that holds transformation. To walk upon her is to walk upon your ancestors, to feel their sacrifices, to remember that life is not your own, it is a continuation. And to live without honoring her is to walk without purpose, without grounding, without a name. But then came the storm, not of rain, but of ruin. They did not ask permission from the ancestors, nor did they honor the shrines of Allah. They came with steel crosses and foreign tongues, claiming salvation while sowing desecration. The missionaries and colonizers saw the sacred earth not as a living spirit, but as property. To them, Allah was not a goddess. She was an obstacle, an enemy to be conquered, a silence to be broken. They came with books that renamed our spirits and laws that outlawed our rituals. The shrines to Allah, once the spiritual heart of every Igbo village, were torn down brick by brick. The sacred groves, ofo trees, ancestral altars, the forests where priestesses once spoke with the divine, were declared evil or seized for colonial projects. Priestesses were stripped of authority. Women who once carried spiritual power were branded witches, criminals, or heathens. The spiritual fabric of the land was unraveled under the lie that civilization could only come through erasure. They replaced our oracles with courtrooms. They replaced the wisdom of elders with colonial judges. They taught us to distrust our soil, to forget that Allah was our first teacher. In Christian sermons, Allah was recast as a false god, her taboos dismissed as superstition. The Igbo worldview, once grounded in sacred reciprocity with nature, was labeled primitive, inferior. The new religion offered heaven above but took away the holiness below. They taught us that our dead did not watch us from within the earth, but were lost unless baptized. In doing so, they severed our spiritual lifeline. But Ayla did not leave. She was buried, under concrete, under guilt, under shame. Yet even in silence, she endured. She became the whisper in the wind that wouldn't die, the ache in the bones of the displaced, the dream that mothers had but could not speak aloud. Though her altars crumbled, her memory endured in song, in story, in the soil itself. For no empire, no matter how brutal, could erase the breath of the earth. She waited, she remembered, and in time, so would we. But Ayla is not gone. She never was. She only withdrew, into memory, into silence, into waiting. And now, after generations of forgetting, her children stir. Across villages and cities, across oceans and diasporas, those who were taught to bow to foreign gods are lifting their heads and listening again to the voice in the soil. The sacred hum of the earth calls louder now, breaking through centuries of noise and forgetting. In Nigeria, young Igbo people are returning to the wisdom their grandmothers whispered in secret. They gather around forgotten altars, clean sacred groves overrun by weeds and concrete, and speak Allah's name without fear. In art, in poetry, in quiet acts of restoration, they breathe life back into her story. Historians uncover the truth buried beneath colonial narratives. Spiritual leaders, once silenced, reclaim their place as keepers of ancient law. Across social media, documentaries, and village festivals, Allah's memory rises again, not as myth, but as medicine. Even in the diaspora, far from her red clay, her spirit lives on. Children of the transatlantic slave trade who were torn from her soil now dream of her in distant lands. They plant gardens, honor ancestors, and study the old ways with reverence. Environmentalists, conscious of Earth's suffering, find new meaning in Ayla's law of balance. To protect the planet is now to honor her. To restore the land is to restore her name. As climate change threatens all life, Allah's voice returns, not just as an Igbo goddess, but as a call for global reverence of Earth. This is not nostalgia, it is rebirth. The daughters of the earth build new altars with their hands, their minds, and their movements. The sons of the land walk barefoot again, not in shame, but in pride. This is more than tradition. It is resistance. It is healing. It is power. In remembering Allah, we remember ourselves, not only as Africans, but as stewards of something ancient, holy, and alive. She is not in the past. She is the path forward. You have never been apart from her. Allah lives within your breath, in the rhythm of your heartbeat, in the soil beneath your feet. She is not a distant memory, but the sacred pulse that moves through all life. A whisper carried on the wind, a presence that calls us back home. In this moment, the earth speaks through her. She calls us to listen with open hearts, to honor her not only in ritual, but in how we live each day, to protect the rivers as if they were our veins, to care for the forests as if they were our lungs, to walk gently, speak kindly, and act justly. Because this is the way of Alabama. Her laws are not ancient relics, but living truths. That justice must flow through our communities, that harmony with nature is sacred, that every life is a thread in the web we must guard. This is a time for healing and for action, to reclaim the wisdom of our ancestors, to rise as guardians of the earth, to carry forward her legacy with love and purpose. Plant seeds of renewal in the land, in our minds, in our souls. Speak her name with reverence and power. Live her law with courage and humility. Allah is not gone. She breathes in us. She moves through us. She awakens us. And together, we can answer her call to heal the earth, to restore balance, to remember who we truly are. Because the earth remembers her name. And in remembering that, we find our way back to life.